Because Foundry is so driven by the youth themselves, there's just so many different options in terms of what types of services you need. And as a young person, it never really felt like I was accessing services, it felt like I was coming home.
Foundry's 5 core services include mental health, substance use, physical health, peer support, and social services. The reason we established those streams was because young people gave us very strong feedback early on that they wanted a breadth of service available in one place.
Historically, certain types of treatments have been really separated. Things like mental health has been really separated from like substance use issues. Things like that under one roof is really helpful in kind of helping people who are going through more than one issue at a time. All youth are so nuanced in whatever what they're dealing with that having everything under one roof kind of better supports a full person rather than just aspects of a person.
It can be very scary to reach out and then be slapped on the wrist by someone who doesn't understand the youth context or somebody who just isn't able to offer you what you need.
When our government designed our long-term plan for mental health and addictions, Pathway to Hope, we heard from a lot of people of all ages that when they reached out for care, they had to wait, or they had to work hard to navigate the system and find out where their entry point was.
You know, you would go to your general practitioner and they've been dealing with all different ages for however many years, and a lot of the time, you know, I was a young girl going into my doctor's office to see my elderly male doctor. So a lot of the time, you know, he didn't understand where I was coming from. He couldn't really offer me anything other than medical advice. He, you know, could maybe say like, well, we can give you a prescription or you can just deal with it.
No one family can navigate mental health or addiction challenges on their own. No young person can. A foundation of our government's work to build a system of care has been to provide people with a lot of options and to recognize people need different access points. Foundry really epitomizes that.
When we're able to say it's free, confidential, come on in today, they're just so amazed by that because I think that in the past, what people have had is roadblock after roadblock.
For many young people, they weren't able to address their mental health until they addressed their physical health or they addressed their sexual health. We had to take a much deeper interest in a holistic approach for young people so that they could, in fact, start to thrive.
It's been well established that many youth are out there struggling with mental health needs, struggling to access treatment. And the idea is that if you come into our doors, you can have attention for mental health ranging from, drop-in counseling to a group psychotherapy of various kinds to, seeing a psychologist or a psychiatrist.
As a drop-in counselor, my role is to do a quick safety assessment, do some exploration about their skills, passions, strategies, the factors that are going on in their life, culture, spiritual orientations. You really want to get an understanding of all the skills and wisdom that youth brings into that room and what kind of challenges are stacking up against them and how, so you can make a good plan with them. So that way they're provided what they need.
Foundry, especially in the early months of the pandemic, pushed out the virtual platform and the Foundry app. If you go onto their app, you can be able to talk quite early with someone that can help you with your immediate crisis and help you establish a plan moving forward for getting connected with mental health counseling and support. That's a very important place for people to be able to connect with counseling and feel the effects of this healthcare team province-wide.
You can have your primary care, your medical needs met. That's sort of general youth medical services. That's trans care, that's sexual health.
In the primary care clinic, we have two kinds of patients that comes in. We have patients and their families or patients on their own that come in because they're not sure what they need. And they are triaged at our front desk. Some of them come through being referred from the mental health programs because they all need a medical workup. They usually need some blood work just to make sure they don't have any metabolic issues that are causing anxiety and depression. And then we figure out where they need to go for further help. And we do a lot of primary care mental health here. So a lot of youth on medications, they need to come back in for follow-up, which we do. We provide quite tight follow-up because of the nature of mental health in youth, having them start on medications that can increase rates of suicide. And thank goodness for the support of our integrated team here, our whole Foundry team, that we can support them in other ways other than just medication and meeting with them.
Substance use is definitely an aspect of need that young folks are looking to address when they walk through our doors. We have on hand primary care providers, so doctors and nurses who have that skill to be able to support them in a medical capacity. We also have counselors who are available who can support them with coping strategies or connection with groups like Smart Recovery, which we have as a supportive space for young people to, without judgment, just be able to help understand the underlying factors of their coping strategies and their choices. And hopefully in providing a multi-layered foundation, they're in a more stable place to be able to really dig into acquiring the stability they need to address the substances that they've been using to survive or just manage and cope.
Addiction services that are readily accessible, including opioid agonist therapies and counseling and support to access, the whole recovery system, which is again really difficult for youth to navigate that. With the population that we serve, we've built some innovative strategies around opioid agonist therapies where we do outreach and have medications delivered and try to make it as easy as possible for youth to stay on life-saving treatments like that.
Peer support is comprised of youth and family peer support. I would say that peer support is probably one of the most essential services because it's a bridge to be able to access to other services, but it's also its own standalone independent discipline. Peer support is the experience of people with shared lived experience, being able to connect in with each other and use that lived experience as a point of connection and also as a symbol of hope and recovery.
A peer support worker can do lots of different things. They can help people find work. They can help people find housing. They can help you get to appointments. They can visit you in the hospital. There's lots of peers that visit people in the hospital. Advocate for your rights. They can just take you for coffee and just sit and talk with you.
Sometimes people come in and they might be at a really heightened emotional state, like especially if they're experiencing crisis or they just, there's a lot going on. So I think being able to have a peer supporter be that first point of contact for a young person or family member can go a really long way in creating a sense of safety within the relationship.
Peer supporters can offer something different than other professionals in that they get what it feels like to be in that position with a family member who's struggling.
I always like to say that the people at the Foundry speak my language. As an independent parent navigating an unknown territory, it was completely unknown to me. It made it okay to talk about it, and it opened up the conversation that I needed to have and I didn't know I needed to have.
The conversation is not going to be, what are you going to do with yourself? Or, what medication are we going to put you on? It's all that pressure is taken off, and it's just about your experience and how a peer can really help.
Hearing those words from somebody who has had a similar experience can be truly the thing that just turns everything around.
Social services at Foundry vary from center to center. Some of the core social services that are available are Foundry Works, which is a work experience program. And then there's also financial support. So some of the Foundry centers have a ministry of social development and poverty reduction liaison worker.
All of those aspects of basic need that often come into play when someone is wrestling with a significant challenge in their life, we have on hand. So we've got services for housing if they need to secure that or in a place of instability. We've got access workers who can help them with basic needs like food or navigating systems.
It's really important to give options to youth for how they want to kind of deal with things on their own while being supported by all these 5 core services.
What we know from our data is by the second visit, 47% of our young people will be accessing a second service. What we also know, though, is that by the 6th visit, almost 90% of them will have access to second service. And you can just imagine that the rapid trust building that must happen for a young person to be able to say, okay, this was a good visit, I got the service I needed, and I know I need something else, and I'm going to come back here. And that ability to commit to coming back, I think, is really impactful for that young person.
We're just scratching the surface right now with Foundry's impact. I think I still talk to youth pretty much every day who are like, what? I've never heard of that. And I'm like, well, let me tell you, this is a great place to go if you need support.
I've had parents say, I didn't know if my child was going to make it through to the next day. And, I feel like I got my kid back.
You're gonna come here and you're gonna get what you need no matter who you are and what you are looking for in terms of your healthcare.